I have to first actually tell them how wonderful they all are looking in their dresses. So it's good to see you. Some of you are wearing Indian dresses. You're looking very good. The colors look so nice on you.
So I just want to say a couple words of introduction. I met Dee Dee. She's referred to here as Dee Dee, older sister, but I don't think she's my older sister, but I have reverence for her as an older sister because of the work that she does in this world. And I explained to you that she gave up a life of relative ease, if you can say being a doctor is ever easy, but she left the life of being in Delhi in a very promising practice to come here and serve the village people here, and especially serve women and children in this area. But her work extends to so many things. One of the things we aren't able to do this time because of our timing is go out to the villages and meet some of the women's collectives, but the women's collectives that have been created are changing this area. And we met a long time ago. Somebody said, you have to go meet her, so I did. And then we flew back to Delhi together, and she has served Chinmaya and his projects for many, many years, since 1985.
Yes, that's right. You got it.
The work that's been done here is work that is just done day by day, bit by bit, piece by piece, solving this problem, that problem, creating this opportunity, that opportunity. But for someone to take an organization from its very beginning to what this is today takes a lot of perseverance over a long period of time, and that's how things get accomplished. And so I knew from the moment I met her that this was someone special, and it's been a privilege to bring you guys here to talk with her. And I always learn something, and I love hanging out with her and just being around her. So it's a privilege for me to be here as well.
Thank you so much. Same for me to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you. So there it is. They have questions, but if there's anything you'd like to say to them.
I think questions are a good beginning.
Okay.
Okay, I have the first question. So as a pediatrician and the director of CORD, you must have created so much positive change in the lives of so many women and children. What is it that you most want them to learn and take away from their relationship with CORD? And what are some of the challenges that they face?
The biggest take is that everyone has great potential. Everyone. We have to just tap them, make them realize, and open more opportunities. That's the lesson they have to get. That we can do something. Each one has to know, I can do something. I may be different from someone, but I have something very unique about me and I can do it. Challenges? Every job has a lot of challenges. But however, each challenge makes you grow stronger. You ask the challenges the children and their mothers have. They're pretty different from each other. That's why it's very important to listen to people. Even if a group, we sit together, if I sort of interact with you, I will know exactly what is pricking you most. So it's very different from each one to the other. But there are certain common things that come out generally when you work with people. Making women stand on their own with their own jobs or earning cash in hand, getting the money in their own hand, is sometimes a challenge for some of them, but once they realize where they can work, it opens up certain areas for them to learn, and that gives them the power to be themselves. So those are the and I think it's all over the world. It's not very unique to just us here. It's all over the world, whether I go to Japan or the US or I go anywhere else. A lot of dignity comes from making your own money too.
Historically, that represents a change, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Can you say something about that change?
See, most women believe that they're not doing anything. When they're looking after their own homes, their own children, doing all the domestic chores, and in these mountains doing the agriculture and looking after the few cows or goats or poultry that they have, they all think I've been doing nothing. If you go and ask her, what are you doing? No, I do nothing. So that's been a big journey for us to make them realize that they're doing a lot. If they were to stop working, imagine all the women all over the world stated one day, we are on a holiday today, okay, no work at home. You see the amount of chaos that might be there. So the first thing was a challenge to make them realize that they're doing great things. We can improve it better. Second part was to make men understand, too, that women were doing such great work. And in the beginning, people would tell women that you're wasting your time going for a meeting for which they came once a month. So it took some time. And there have been many struggles, individual struggles for many women. And we only help them to overcome that kind of a struggle. Depending, as I told you, the issues are different for each woman. A woman might be troubled because she has an alcoholic husband who doesn't earn and doesn't bring any money home. So how to look after her children. Another woman may have a disabled child and she doesn't know what to do about that child and where to get some help. Someone may have some health problems. So there's as many issues as you can think of. And unless we look into them individually and collectively what we can do for that person, change doesn't come about. So it's been a long journey and now many of them have realized how to work together in groups. So those groups are known as women's group. We call them Mahila Mandals. And they have once a month meeting where they think of everything under the sun, whether it is a social issue, economic issue, political issue, issues of society, anything. Natural resource management, even that. What to think about the young, the youth, the children, you know, some of them getting into drugs, alcohol, everything they talk about. So how to participate in local self-governance. So it's been a long journey, but bit by bit, it's not like a straight graph growth, it's a spiral growth. And they reach somewhere.
Hi. Over the course of your career, what changes have you seen in the status of women, either positive or negative? And what do you think should be the primary focus for the next generation of humanitarians in India?
See, both men and women have their own values. So they don't have to be the same. But we have to recognize the value of each one. Women have an inherent capacity to nurture. So all of us should acknowledge that, be grateful to them for that, nurturing capacity of women. Another capacity that women have is to sacrifice. You will find your mothers sacrifice their sleeps for you when you were born, to look after you, to make sure, and she did it with love, because she cared so much for you. So it was not a kind of real sacrifice for her, because she had joy in doing that. And women are actually psychologically stronger than men, although men appear to be more strong. I think it comes from the value of being able to be patient, tolerant, things like that. So I'm not like a women activist, okay, you have to do this for women and that. I'm for the equality and the opportunities and everything else. But diversity is beautiful. So if women have their beauty kept with all the other kind of responsibilities that they have, it should be done, but they should not be crushed under the labor of looking after people. It should not be made compulsory for them that you have to do this, you know, and to be bowed down, but to be acknowledged and recognized and respected and revered for all that they do. That is the attitude that we should develop towards women and allow them to be free in many ways to make decisions. Okay. So that's the kind of women empowerment I think of, that women own things, they have their ownership growing, but how does one take more ownership of anything is when you are the decision maker, when you put some money, effort for something. So with ownership, you start seeing women blossoming in many, many ways. So that is the way I would like women empowerment to come through, and for humanity to go much beyond where we are stuck. We are too much stuck only in objective sciences. It's all right, objective science is required for the comfort of everyone. But as much as we focus on the world outside, all human beings must be encouraged to look within, to know themselves much better than they know. That's not on basis of just morality. Morality is required for the mind to be quiet, but really explore that what we really are. We are very restricted with our own identity, with the body, mind and intellect alone. We have some greater potential, each human beings have that, and that is the kind of relationship we should have with each other. Then there won't be any kind of exploitation, and there's so much exploitation in the world, so much violence in the world that one sees, how much we have destroyed the globe. So those are many issues that we need to face, and we have to really really enjoy giving. We haven't understood that giving is the greatest joy. That's why we make the mistakes we make. Okay, that's what human beings have to really understand their potential.
Hi. How do you get a community to accept new ideas that bring cultural changes?
Imogen, see, every community has many good traditional values, so promote them. It also has many ills that creep in through the years, discuss it. And it has many harmless practices that people practice, allow them to go on. All over the world, because of various invasions, even in India, because we see from almost 1,000 years, India was first invaded by the Mughals and the Muslims for a long time, and then came the invasion, British invasion, so we were colonized. So, and then the new independence and growing through, and not knowing enough about our own country's culture, wealth, and the greater narratives of India. There's a lot more to be done I can speak for India. So every culture has to undo the wrongs to its own narratives, because those are the cultural values that are not only beneficial for that community, but they are beneficial for everyone in the world. So you must help those cultural values to be continued. And they bring a lot of joy. Cultural values are in many ways, it's a wide spectrum, you see. It's the way we think to the way we manifest, and the deeper down of the realization of what we think we are. So it's a very wide spectrum. But so look after the good values. It's good for everyone in the world, and we can share it with each other.
This is consistent with something the Dalai Lama was saying today.
Really?
Absolutely, because ultimately all paths lead to the top of the mountain. And but he was talking about questioning and not just accepting.
Oh, yes.
And the questioning the narratives to figure out which are the narratives that we will sustain us.
Of course. You see, many narratives may not have some evidence, so we have to look for those evidences. And some narratives, if they don't have it, leave it open for further exploration. And really do good research on many of them before we. It's just not about narratives, it's about life. The human beings are the only people, only species that can think. So questioning is important, but questioning not from my egoistic point of view, but questioning to find the truth. I'm questioning because I'm trying to reach the truth. That's why I'm questioning. That's important.
Who's next? Hi. So, have you ever come across a situation or problem within the communities that you have served that you could not change? And if so, how did you respond to that challenge?
I'm no one to change, okay? And in fact, we can change no one. But we can all lead people through active listening. To either come to agreeing with us or disagreeing with us. But when we do that, we should allow enough space. If they don't agree with our viewpoints, then allow some space for them to ruminate over it. Because if you and I are speaking things that are real, that are truthful, are speaking with love for the people, for their good, not my own good, their good, not selfishly. And when I am speaking with anyone, I have no other ulterior motives than their own good. And then when we speak, when we have sweetness in our voice, and a very important thing sometimes is to also see whether they have given you the right to correct them, you know what you want to say. So all these are a combination of things that we work with communities, we understand them, and very often we see that their own insights, their own wisdom is very good, and maybe the right solution may come out with our discussions with them. So that's why we think we don't know enough. The community too is very wise, and there is no one solution that fits all. And the more local we go and the local context that we discuss things, we find better solutions at lower cost with greater sustainability. So those are the important things. And very often, of course, it's very difficult, like you said, in the communities, it's not always very easy. It takes a lot of patience. And like anywhere else in the world, there are all types of people that make up a world. So the community also is made up of many types of people. Some are neutral, some are with you, and some are there to destroy the thing. Okay? So one must, if you are a leader and the community has leaderships, we try to nurture their leadership. We must be able to negotiate with those kind of situations. And I think ultimately people do realize what is good. It's only when we are selfish we don't find the right answers.
So, in an article or an interview with the UN, you said, as soon as you can provide an opportunity, especially to people who are poor and disabled, I've seen that they can do amazing things. We just have to be creative enough to understand what would suit them. So I'm curious, how do we become aware of what would suit people and see their potential?
There are many ways. The easiest way is to be meeting them at their own site, where they live. That's the best way to understand the whole situation around. Like you all were told about India before you came here. You heard about, you could imagine many things. But it's only when you came to India you know what it is about. Okay? So similarly, when you are trying to help the poor and the disadvantaged, it's very important to be in their shoes. And once you're in their shoes, the empathy is good, then 1 and 1 doesn't become 2, it becomes 11. Okay? So it's been a great way of doing things. That's the best way. The other is, of course, because there you don't have to do too much talking or understanding and a lot of interview, because many things are clear to you at once. Oh God, they live like this. This is where they get their water from. And he doesn't have a place to go and relieve himself in the morning. And he can't even walk. Or we have given him a wheelchair, but in that mountain area they cannot operate the wheelchair, so it's been thrown away in a store and plants have grown over it. Okay, so it's only when you go there you know what it is and how to help. So Sage.
I was wondering who the women are in your life that have inspired you or that you admire.
When you're little, your immediate surrounding, your mothers, your sisters, your friends around. As you grow, few teachers. As you grow older, as for me, like when I was in a hospital, working in a hospital, my professors and doctors who worked very hard, day and night, because we worked in huge hospital that served the very poor. So you saw what tenacity they worked. And there have been so many women, even in India and abroad, that influence your way of thinking. But I wouldn't say it's just women, it's men also. And I don't have one particular woman who has inspired, but I have many people who have inspired me. So it's difficult for me to say who exactly it is. I can say my father inspired me greatly. But if you ask me just one person who inspired, and not a woman, it's my Guru, Swami Chinmaya. I've been inspired greatly by him, because that's the first time I understood how little I knew about myself. So I cannot compare him with anyone. It's another journey, as I told you, and it's a big journey.
Hi. Through our research, we read that you focus a lot of your work on self-help and not charity. So I was wondering, what does self-help mean to you, and how do you accomplish it?
Oh, Mara. Yes. I would like to ask you, what does self-help mean to you?
Well, I think self-help is just really taking care of yourself and being in tune with your emotions and your body, and not being afraid to just stick to what you believe is best for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one part of it, to be confident about you, to have a good self-image about you, and be able to see what are my own resources, what are my own interests, what is feasible for me to do at this moment, rather than look too far. Okay? Because for each one of us, it's a step up. So self-help is being really able to know where I stand. At this very moment, what can I do instead of being helpless? And take a few steps, so that every time you take a few steps, you are encouraged within yourself that I can do it. But it doesn't happen so easily for people who have had very difficult lives and very disadvantaged lives. So our role is to be able to facilitate that process. Sometimes it may require some interventions from us. It's like saying that, you can give a man a fish to eat when he's very hungry, but not all the time. But you must teach him how to fish, so that he can do it himself or herself. So that's the kind of facilitations we do. We demand that you also take steps, so that we can take some steps with you. But we don't want to make them be dependent on us and have a crutch, because we know that they have much better way of getting out of their difficulties than they think today. So that effort, that courage, that confidence can really be facilitated. So that's how we work. Mara?
Hello. An article on the Chinmaya Mission webpage states, "Every organ of the body is part of the whole. Goodness can be achieved only when we are established in our oneness with the world. This concept is so different from the sense of individualism that permeates Western culture. Can you speak to what this kind of universal connection means to you?"
It's a very deep question. I'll try to be See, if I think I'm just the body, mind and intellect, then then it is possible that I can become very individualistic. Because I keep saying, I am the perceiver, I am the feeler, I am the thinker, I am the doer, I am this and I am that. So there's a great chance of being that. As we start expanding ourselves beyond ourselves, it begins from the family. Okay? If I begin to see for everyone in the family, then I'm expanding my area of universality. If I just stick to, this is my place, this is my freedom, this is the way things have to be done, then I'm too much of an individualistic. Okay? So if I work for my family, I grow a little more, expand a little more. I start working for a group of people like you, though you are like a team together, you grow further. Then you grow for your own community, your own village. You keep expanding your own region, your own nation, then the globe, and then the universe. So one starts realizing that one's own being an individual is not such a happy state of being. Being universal comes from the realization that I'm happier being universal than being an individual. Once I know that, because all of us are here in this world to be happy, once I know that it makes me much more happier to do and share things, then you start doing it more and more. Okay, so that's how you become more and more universal. The other thing that happens to us is the higher the goal that you want to reach, for reaching out to people universally. Sometimes, like even the family, if I start from family too, and then again expand myself, the greater the energy and strength you get to face challenges. And if my goal is the Lord Himself, or self-realization or truth itself, then obstructions may come and go. You go beyond yourself. So you have, not because of anything else that you are a greater person or you're some very great person, it's just this realization that the ego is an illusion. So you're so much happier doing much more. But I don't want to go to the real base of Vedanta, but I'm trying to touch only the manifested world of our being, which we can, each of us actually can experience it. Each one of us is a lab within ourselves. You don't need to have confirmation and validation from anyone else. You validate it yourself by living it.
Hi.
Hi.
In discussing teachings of the Upanishads, an article through the Chinmaya mission states, students of our modern times cannot really believe what their reason accepts. This disconnect between belief and what reason tells us is one that I have observed in my own experience. What do you think causes this?
What causes the distance between belief and reason?
Between what we logically see as true and what we believe is true.
Thinking has its own value, okay? Logic has its own value. But logic may not always lead you to the truth. It depends on many other factors. I may use or misuse logic to project something as truth. So there is that risk there. But let us now drop that. The intellect can only take you to some limit. It cannot take you to the ultimate truth. But the intellect, based on its own knowledge and certain experiences, can think of a higher thing. That's how discoveries are made. That's how Newton said, I got it. Okay? Otherwise, we would have never known the Archimedes principle. So when you follow a discipline very much sincerely, then that discipline leads you to the answer. And that time you don't say, I discovered. It came to me. You don't say, I discovered, but you say, it came to me. It has a great meaning. The faith that I had was the belief that led me to go beyond the logic to find it. And it comes to me. It opens up its own treasures to me. In any field, you look at any field. When we were practicing in the hospital and we were pediatricians working with patients, sometimes we would say to each other that my clinical acumen says this is it. But if they asked, explain it too much logically, I would say, no, I can't really fit in, but the whole picture appears to me it is this. And then suppose the person passed away and there was a autopsy done, you may turn out to be right. But you couldn't explain why you were thinking it was this. That you had faith, but you had followed certain discipline. It was not without any logic. So when we are diving within ourselves for the greater truth, it's like pole vaulting. We say, don't leave your intelligence and your mind, but bring them together, go to the height of the pole, okay? But ultimately you have to drop the pole to take the jump. Yeah? So that's it. So always saying that because I don't have any logic, do not have any reasoning, it cannot be the truth, may restrict ourselves to discoveries.
So in some ways you're talking about the intuitive process that transcends where we know, but we don't know how we know.
Yeah. We have a word in our language which doesn't fit in very well. The closest English word is faith. Okay? But we use the word Shraddha. It means a little more than just faith. Because I may have faith in something that is restrictive and may be wrong. But in Shraddha, we have faith in something which is much higher and more inclusive for everyone, and which has the quality of divinity. You can't have faith for, I have faith to murder you. Can't have that kind of faith, okay? So it will correct the whole world. That is not a good faith. John, now.
Selfless service is a mutually beneficial act. The giver grows spiritually, and the receiver is blessed with the power of transformation. Understanding this, why is it that there is not more selfless service in the world? What obstacles, either internal or external, stand in the way of selfless service?
See, I think I'll just tell you that you may begin with self-help service without actually realizing the joy of it. You just do it because people tell you that to do self-help service is good for you. Okay? But soon enough, when you are sincere with your service, you start realizing the fact that you are the greatest beneficiary of the whole thing, that you are getting the most out of it. And that's when you break all of it. You break the fact that, oh, I'm doing selfless service. Then you stop even saying that there's selfless service because there's no selflessness in it. You're enjoying yourself so thoroughly. You're so happy. People give you so much, and then you start realizing the cosmos begins to answer. The cosmos starts giving a lot. So, I feel people are not trying enough. The opportunities that they get for selfless services, and it should begin at home. By being much more concerned about people who are present in your home for them than rather for your own selves. And then, of course, the world offers you so many more opportunities. But once you've got it, it's like addiction. Okay? It just happens. John?
So in Western society, we are often taught that it is our discontent that drives us to make positive changes, like the ones you've made in your work. Yet you stress the importance of finding inner peace. How do we find the motivation to accomplish our goals while maintaining a sense of inner peace?
See, the motivation for people to do what they do may be different for different people. It may not always be dissent or discontent. So it's not always stress that leads you to doing something like what one does. It may be understanding that the Lord has given me many more things that I could do, so why not do it? It may not always be dissent. Okay? Because each one of us are at different levels of our own evolution. Different levels of our own evolution. And you asked another question, that how to be peaceful? What was the question? Let me get it right.
How to maintain your motivation and inner peace at the same time.
Motivation for doing something and maintaining the peace within yourself, you mean that?
Yes.
Does motivation make some people unhappy? I'm trying to understand the question, please.
So, inner peace, I guess the feeling is when I think of inner peace, I think of contentment. Like I'm okay with what's around me already. And it's okay if this is what's going to happen. But then if I'm okay with everything, how do I find motivation to make changes?
I got it. Okay. You may see, there's a acceptance of things as they are without action to change it if it is not good enough. That's not really acceptance. That is like being a little lazy about it, because it suits me, it's my comfort zone. Okay? But when or you see a situation for which you need to do something, and you have the ability by the Lord's grace to do something about it, it is our duty to jump into it without getting agitated. Mind has to be told to be kept quiet if it is agitated. Come on, because I am the boss. Mind is not the boss. Let the mind keep quiet. I have work to do. Okay? Because all of us know the more peaceful we are, the better we can function. So it's not unnatural to get agitated, but we have to become aware that I am getting agitated and not being peaceful, because I have something to do. So let the mind keep quiet. And still, if the mind doesn't keep quiet and is still very agitated, take some time out. Breathe deeply. Or sit quietly. Reflect. Try to get strength from higher. Then walk ahead. Peace is our real being. We have not understood it. We are covered with too many things. So the more we try to be what we really are, it can be reached effortlessly. Beginning, as a beginner, there are lots of efforts to be made. But once we know certain techniques to apply, we start applying it. And the best technique to know is that the mind can be my friend, but the mind can also be my enemy. So let the mind know that. I want you to be my friend, not my enemy. And once the mind knows you are aware and you are alert, stop playing its tricks. It's only when we allow it, it does play the trick.
So I wanted to know what working with impoverished villagers has taught you about human nature.
I'm very grateful to them. They have taught me many, many things. One is their patience, especially women, their tolerance, their fortitude in all difficult situations, and still being able to be happy and merry in times when it is required with very little. Sometimes you find the people who are very rich, who find it very difficult to give. And sometimes you find a very poor person so willing to share nothing that, they don't have much, but they are very willing to share it. So you learn a lot. You learn from their hardships, you learn from the way they do their own work at home, and how it is possible to be happy with very little. We learn a lot. All the time we are learning from everyone in the world. not only from the people whom we empower, but I'm learning with you all at this very moment. You learn a lot, all the time. Everyone is your teacher. Someone who's good to you, someone who's rude to you, both are teachers. They teach you something about yourself, not about themselves. Of what I am feeling and thinking, they are teaching me. If someone is rude to me and I get upset, it tells me more about myself than that person.
How do you think we can take the principles behind self-help organizations and apply them to other institutions such as businesses or governments?
So you're saying take the principles
Yes.
by which self-help organizations operate. Could those principles be transferred into government and businesses?
Yeah. I think we mutually exchange a lot with each other. Businesses teach us and self-help teaches us a lot more. Self-help is also about being self-reliant. Okay? So being less dependent on someone else to do something. So there are many situations in government and businesses when we make excuses that this cannot be done because of this. Self-help is about finding solutions, not only finding problems. And it is applicable everywhere. There is no place where there are no problems. But if I am working with the principle of self-help, that means I have confidence about it, I start looking into ways in which it could be resolved, I do it for myself, then I have practiced enough to be able to help others to find their self-help areas of working. And self-help is very good in a group too. Not only for, say, microcredit that we hear about self-help groups, but there are groups of Alcoholic Anonymous that helps each other. There are people like you, students together, sitting together. He likes maths and she doesn't like it. She can't get it. So he decides, okay, John says to Lillian, it's fine. It's also about helping each other. I'll make maths so easy for you, start loving it the way I love it. Okay? And that's it. And Lillian has certain other thing that it is her own talent and she can teach. So self-help is not only about my help to myself, it's also about helping each other. Because most of the time it also operates within groups. So when you said about businesses, businesses are teams and groups and management teams and everyone else. It's about helping oneself and helping each other to find their solutions. And we do much better when we work, because some of us have certain things that complement the other. We are always complementing each other. We may not be good in everything, but when we complement each other, it's very helpful. That's why we call them self-help groups.
Who is not the self, right?
Yeah, who's not selfish.
So I'm curious, you've heard a lot of very important ideas. And one of the reasons I like to come and sit with Dee Dee is because she reminds me of what's important. So I'm curious about what you've heard that struck you as important so far. Go ahead.
I really liked what you said about leading people through active listening, because through my own personal experience, I think some of the best leaders and teachers that I've ever had have all had that in common, that they tend to listen to their students, and by doing that, they can really help their students or whoever they're leading have a really great experience. So I really liked what you said about that.
Yeah, because in active listening, the two of us together find a solution which we didn't know before we started.
I love everything you said. But I especially, I was struck by pretty much everything you said about what self-help means to you and what it means to communities. I love that you pointed out that an individual's mind can be their own friend or their own enemy. And I think that's really, that's something a lot of people can work on, is just, including myself, is just wanting to be friends with my own mind.
Yes.
So I love that.
That's very nice imagine.
Can you say something about why that has meaning for you?
I think as a young person, I am struggling. A lot of us are struggling to, figure out what we want to do, who we want to become. I very often think about who I want to become, and oftentimes when you think that way, you can develop doubt. And doubt is something that can hover over the mind for a long time, and that would make an enemy of your mind. And doubt is something I want to get rid of, for sure, and be my friend to my mind.
Yeah, it's a good thing that you said so. Sometimes it also helps when the mind is like that to seek help from someone who is much more mature and calmer than you, because then it helps you to find your own solutions, not their solution, but your own solution. It's like a reflecting board. And Kelly.
For me, what really stuck out is when you said that genders have different values but are equal in importance. I thought that was really cool, just because I feel like today often people are trying to lump both genders in the same category, and almost treating them like they're the same and they need to have the same importance, but I do feel like they're very different, and we need to recognize different values that come out of each one so we can all come together, and so I really like that.
Actually, they're very complementary.
Yeah.
They're very, very complementary. And they can even exchange roles.
Mm-hmm.
I really loved your pole vaulting analogy about logic. I've never heard about that before, and that's actually something I was thinking about. I often struggle with finding the relationship between intuition and logic. So like if I'm in a situation where I see like a logical path, but I feel something different, like what you were saying, I think I like to know what's coming next. I like the logic part of it, and sometimes just having the feeling by itself makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So I really liked the analogy saying that it's okay to let go of the mind and the logic and trust your gut.
Yeah, you can. Good, Priyanka.
I really liked when you said giving is the greatest joy, because rather than someone just thinking about themselves, they're giving to the community and they're also benefiting off of it. So just that's a great concept to me.
And we can all try out and find it out.
Yeah.
It's a great experiment within ourselves.
I really liked when you said that you can give a man a fish once in a while when he really needs it, but not all the time. You must teach him to fish. And in America, at least, we've all heard the saying, like, you can give a man a fish to eat for one day, but teaching him to fish is better. But I hadn't heard the part about when he really needs it. It's so important to help people when they are really in crisis.
Yes.
But doing things for them is not really helping them. They need to be self-sufficient.
Yeah, so you have to help them to become self-sufficient.
Exactly. Help them overcome their own obstacles, but don't do it for them. And that's very, very important.
So you got it right, Anika.
Thank you.
Something that really struck me was when you were talking about putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and that perspective really enhances your capacity for empathy. And I really agree with that. That's how I think, like, it's a great way to solve conflict in your life. Just, seeing everyone's perspective really changes a lot. And that 1 and 1 isn't 2, but it is 11. That really struck with me. I don't know why. Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sage.
Well, I liked a lot of what you were talking about, but when you were answering my question about self-help, I really liked what you said about being in the moment and don't look too far, because you kind of can get caught up in that, and I tend to do that. It's like really hard for me to be in the present. I really like to think about like where I'm going next, but it is really important to be in the present and to know where you stand, but don't be helpless as well. Just stand your ground and find that confidence too.
That's good. You could know, if we can understand that living in the present is so good for us, because the future has not yet come, so don't have any anxiety for it. And the past is dead and gone. So it's only the moment that we live. So you got it very deep. Thank you, Mara.
There was a lot of stuff. Yeah, I have tons of notes on all of that. And everything that everybody said, pretty much I've resonated with. Yeah, and just so many great things about the limitation of logic. I love the answer that you had to the question I had about inner peace. And what you were talking about, intuition, that also really struck me, the pole vaulting analogy. And if I'm allowed to do this, are there any ways that we can develop that intuition? Do you have any tips for how to do that?
Intuition is actually a higher knowledge that lights all knowledge. In the light of that knowledge that lights everything, which is your own true self. Which we also call the absolute truth or the Lord himself. We call different things. So to develop that kind of thing within ourselves, we have to learn to become witnesses of our own thoughts and emotions. Now, what does a witness do? Like, suppose I am a witness of an accident. I am not affected by the accident, but I have observed the accident. It doesn't touch me, but I have seen it. So once we become aware of we are very aware of things around us, but we are not very aware of things within us. So start being quiet enough to watch your own thoughts and emotions and know that I am not them. They are my thoughts and emotions, like the pen is me, not me. It's my pen. I'm writing with the pen. So I use the pen, but the pen is not me. I am absolutely the blissful being that I am. In Sanskrit, we have 3 words of who we are. It's called Sat Chit Anand. I am existence, knowledge, blissfulness. So once we start diving within that aspect of that dimension of ourselves and become more witness to what is happening outside me in my thoughts and my emotions, Sometimes happy, sometimes sad, sometimes jealous, sometimes angry. Sometimes thinking this is right because the intellect makes a decision, this is right, this is wrong. Just be quiet, keep a distance like a witness. Let it settle. And that settling is actually recognizing the peacefulness, peace within you that you already are, which Jesus said, the peace that passeth all understanding. That's what we are.
Thank you.
You're already peace. Only we have to realize it.
So, thank you for that. I really liked what you said. For me, I really resonated with what you were saying about how everything begins with the family. And I like that a lot because my family owns a business in my town. And through connecting with my family and the business, I've met so many more people than I would never have met. And I'm so grateful for that. And going deeper into that has allowed me to gain more knowledge about what's going on around me. And it's connected to me a lot of people. So I think it's really valuable to understand that and to be gracious to my family.
Yes.
And so thank you for,
Thank you, John.
yeah, thank you.
Yes, Lillian.
I liked when you said to ask yourself, what can I do instead of being helpless? I think a lot of times we just resort to helplessness and we just put our hands up and we give up. And you say, there's nothing I can do. But I think from what you said, there's so much more we can do, like so much more than just being helpless. And I think that's important.
Thank you, Lillian.
And Lillian, what do you think holds you back? Because obviously that was important to you. Do you think about what holds you back?
I don't know. My mom always tells me not to be the victim, I think, and a lot of times, like, that kind of is the same thing. Just not just, like, holding back and just saying there's nothing else I can do.
So being you're a little bit risk adverse, right?
Yeah.
Taking the risk. Yeah, so the question then might be, what is the cost of making a mistake in your mind? Could be.
Yeah.
Kind of what Richard Conville was talking about yesterday. About like when I have it reviewed, but whatever. Like when something causes you suffering, like analyzing it and understanding why that happened, and especially when somebody does something to you, you feel sorry for them for thinking that was afflictive emotion was a good choice in that situation, and just like, yeah, I don't know, just understanding where that suffering is coming from, and in that you're able to let it go and move on and not hold on to it and let that drag you down. I think that that's really important.
Because if that's what other person is not you, has a problem, so we should not be affected by someone else's. We should be compassionate towards them.
That's what she was saying, yeah. And a couple of observations. One is that what I notice is happening in this circle with you is that what strikes them as important, that touches them, is when you give language to what they already know inside.
Yes.
And it touches them.
You said it very well.
And it validates their own intuition. So that's one observation. The second observation I have about intuition is that school tends to kill intuition because there are right answers and there are wrong answers and there are consequences for wrong answers. If the teacher could try to understand how the student makes sense to themselves, they might learn something from the student.
Yes.
What I notice about intuitives is that they often don't know why they think what they think or how they got there. So the intuitive knows, but they're not sure that they know. The quick processors use reasoning and they can give their reasons. So the quick processors tend to speak. The intuitives tend to be silent. They don't practice bringing their ideas into language. And so sometimes people don't think they're smart. Because the ability to speak takes practice.
Yes.
And so I loved hearing you say that the intuition is the highest intelligence.
Yes.
And often that is a greater power speaking through you, that is when you let go of the pole and you go over the bar.
Yes.
Because I think we need to honor intuition in the young.
Yes. You very rightly said that we teachers don't kill the creativity into children. Like A is only for apple, it can be for anything else. A can be for anything else. So it's been very good meeting you all. You all encourage me, you invoke in me the answers that you receive. I don't know what I'm going to say to you. So all the answers, like he said, the intuition within you, you invoked it in me. So I gave you some answers. So the credit goes to all of you.
So I want to ask you a question before we end.
Yes.
Because the thing that is always remarkable to me is where your answers come from. Because I think they don't come from some logical construct, but they do get evoked. Can you say something about your practice that helps you have the depth and the confidence to speak to us in this way?
Okay. Anything that upsets me or is likely to upset me or is challenging me in many ways, it's out of my comfort zone, as you would say. I try to think and repeat what we call japa. I don't know whether you've heard of japa. We have an inner connection with something in us, which we call the Lord, the Divine, or you have various names for that. So, for you it could be Lord Jesus, okay? So, for me, we have a name for it, my own Isht Devta, by someone whom I relate to. So, I do that mantra jap. And then all the other things in the mind that are erupting and disturbing settle down, because that itself reminds me of my own strength, the divinity, everything else. So it settles down. So I'm more equipped to then face the situation, because like you said, peace. Unless we are peaceful within, we can't do much outside. Especially the greater the challenge, the greater the peace is required within me to do the right actions. So that's how we practice to get out of our situation, but nothing like meditation. This I said is in between the situation, but the kind of energy that we get in meditation is very deep. I think every child should be taught how to meditate, not only adults or when we grow old. And I'll just give you a little incident to make you know why I say it. When I had been here for some time, I had gone home into Delhi, And that time my niece was, she's now a little older than you maybe. She's much older than you now, of course. She's already working. So I had gone and had a bath, nice good bath. I washed my hair and everything else, and I came out. And my niece said to me, she was 2.5, 3, "Auntie, you had a bath with soap and water?" I said, "Yeah, I showered well, I had nice shampoo and everything else." She said, "But did you have a mind bath? You had only a body bath, but did you have a mind bath?" I said to her, "What is a mind bath?" I knew it, but I wanted to know how does a child talk about it. So she said to me, "Sit in front of me, sit quietly and sit, with your back straight and your head, and close your eyes and be silent for 5 minutes. That's a mind bath." So I told her, "Oh, so where did you learn this?" "My nursery teacher. When we go to school every day," she was in a school called Step by Step, and she said, "A teacher tells us to sit down and then sit quietly, sit straight and be just silent for 5 minutes, and this is a mind bath. You had a bath at home, but that was a body bath, but we are now going to have a mind bath. And at night before you go to sleep, you need not have a body bath if you don't want, but you should have a mind bath." Okay? So imagine a little child being given that gift. And that is one very big gift of strength to all of us, which we don't give ourselves that privilege. We should give ourselves that privilege. We owe it to ourselves. So you asked meditation. Meditation is very important.